Susan? Okay.
It's okay. So, all right. So good that you managed to fix it last moment. Otherwise, okay.
Thank God I have you.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for making it, and thank you to Carlos. Well, I'll let Oksana while we're waiting for people to join, I'll let Oksana to give a bit of an introduction about QPQ, about Carlos, and then I'll give you a few few words about, well, I don't want to repeat myself, but once everyone joins, I'll explain about Q&A and a few technical things, and then we'll give the floor to Carlos. But Oksana, please.
I'm still okay. No, sorry. Okay, now it's okay.
Good.
I'm just trying to set up my screen because it wasn't set up. So great. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. We had over 450 lead registration, which was great. I'm amazed by the level of interest that people have in green hydrogen. And Carlos graciously accepted our invitation to speak to our audience, and that's great. Thanks to Carlos. Yes, well, all of you kind of already know, I'm sure you know the topic is that role of green hydrogen in decarbonization of our industries, obviously a great topic of interest. Very quickly, while we're waiting people to join, and as our tradition, I very quickly will tell about us. And for those who don't know, even though I think there's about at least half of the audience already know us, but we are QPQ International, dedicated to help green energy project developers secure debt or equity funders and secure great world-class partners for their projects. This series are created as part of our funding accelerator program, where we basically bring knowledge and peer-to-peer learning for our developers. And most of the people on our network we already know and we spoke, but just want a kind of bit of an update in terms of our growth. So as of today, we have a network, we work on continuous basis with a network of about 850 developers. And that's thanks to Vlad. Vlad met them personally one by one. So you can imagine how many meetings Vlad has. And I'm responsible for growth of our investors. And now, as of today, we've got 570 investors that we work with on an ongoing basis. So this is a personal relationship that we build. So we have been quite busy, and very interestingly, we also have a very, very vibrant and dynamic referral partner program. And we've got, as of today, about 350 referral partners. And these are people who are working consulting, advisory, basically helping green energy projects with other different aspects of project development. And then, of course, then they bring those projects to us as they see when the project land on their tables, to help them secure funding, right? So if you are in that position and you are in contact with good green energy projects who are seeking funding, please reach out to us. We would love to add value. You can just write an email to Vlad or myself, and we will have that conversation. It's basically great because you add value to your network, and because everyone needs money, especially at earlier stages of project development. And you give us opportunity to also add value. So everyone kind of happy. And of course, developer is happy as well. So with that, I will hand over the microphone to Carlos. Very quickly, Carlos will tell you a little bit more about himself. And as you know, we have and the reason people love our webinars is because we're making sure that these are not like sales pitches, is not self-promotion. It's primarily and mostly about adding value and delivering good quality content. But through that, of course, our speakers, you can see that we have a great caliber and knowledgeable people with experience, and through what they share with you, you can see that that these people truly adding value to industry, and they know what they're talking about, right? So Carlos has over 18 years experience in green hydrogen and Power-to-X, and originally he kind of was in academia, accumulated a huge amount of knowledge, and then decided to contribute his knowledge to industries and real projects. And that's what he's been doing. And now he is a senior consultant in Renewable. And with that, Carlos will tell you a little bit more about that. So Carlos, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Welcome.
Just a few words. Thank you, Oksana, for the great introduction. So about the technical part now. So I will be sharing Carlos's presentation in the handout section. You guys can download it there. I will also be posting a few links where you can, later basically share your projects with us. Or you can, as Oksana mentioned, you can send it to me directly. I'll also mention my email. In regards to Q&A session, there is a Q&A button in Zoom where you can post questions. We will dedicate, depends how long Carlos's presentation will go, but we'll make sure we'll leave enough time to answer some of the questions. Questions that are not answered, we will address them and send the answers separately in the follow-up email, because we are recording this session. A lot of people registered, so not everyone could make it, but those who couldn't, they will receive a recording as well. So Carlos, please go ahead. We really appreciate you having you during this webinar, and look forward to learning more about the topic that you're covering.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, Oksana. Thank you, Vlad, for giving me the opportunity to talk about my passion, green hydrogen. I've been working in this since the beginning of my career. I come from, I'm saying that I'm a scientist because I started to do science and R&D for many years. I started in solid oxide fuel cells, and then kind of come out from that world to learn about all the technologies. So I am a technology guy working with hydrogen projects. And let me now start sharing the presentation to kind of start the game. So
perfect. We will kind of switch off our videos not to distract everyone, because you'll be doing the presentation, but we are on the background. If you need anything, just let me know and I'll pop back up. Okay.
Great. So so this is the title of the presentation, and I think I would like that when you finish, leave this webinar, you got a little bit more of an understanding what it's playing, what role is playing hydrogen on this decarbonization of industries. Let me start by coming to the concept of Power-to-X. You probably have heard many things about Power-to-X. So just to put it simple, the Power-to-X is a tool that will allow us to bring renewables to these places where will be very difficult to get. So very difficult places to electrify directly, right? So we can see in the picture, the trucks industry, planes, and we should also add the maritime industry as our main focus, right? To work with Power-to-X. So when you will hear about Power-to-X, and sometimes it's a bit of a strange concept, think that hydrogen is at the center of it. But it's not only about hydrogen. It is about much more, because you could be about producing e-fuels. You could be about utilizing CO2, capturing the CO2. So it's a quite complex terminology that help us to bring renewables to those applications that they are very difficult to electrify. So let me start to kind of explain a little bit what would be or what's going to be the role of green hydrogen in the role, by telling you what is our current use of fossil hydrogen. in both the wall of fossil hydrogen, and I would like also to refer a little bit to the current use of steel to kind of motivate the use of this molecule. You'll see that it is not new. We are using quite an important amount of hydrogen already. You could see 90 million tons, 100 million tons, depending of the source. You could have even less. Well, it's around that figure. Responsible of an important amount of emissions, 7% of the total emissions in the world. I would like also to refer to the quantity of jobs associated to this industry, something that it is quite relevant when we talk about when we think about the economy. So over more than 3 million of jobs direct linked to the fossil hydrogen industry. I also put here the steel to kind of make us the motivation. We all know that the steel is a very difficult industry to decarbonize. We don't have to emphasize the importance that it has in terms of emissions, but also realize how important it is on terms of jobs and how many industries are dependent on this. So, as you know, probably I come from Spain. I live in Sweden and I work for a Danish company. So we are in a very EU context. So I many times refer to EU numbers to kind of understand how big these things are. So for us here in the EU, the use of fossil hydrogen, it is also quite important. It is not that it is used far away. We also use a lot of fossil hydrogen, and we also use lots of steel. So there are lots of emissions that needs to be tackled, and this is kind of the motivation that brought to the EU to these plans that they are quite ambitious. So producing around 20 million tons of renewable hydrogen, because it's not only green. I will come back to that a little bit later, but it is a quite substantial task, just to produce 10 million tons. That this is the target that the EU has put to produce internally. We would need around 100 gigawatts of electrolyzers that need at least new 200 gigawatt renewable energy generation. So we are talking about a lot of electrolyzers to be built, a lot of renewable energy generation to be installed in order to decarbonize just these two sectors, that they are not the only ones that we could decarbonize with hydrogen, as I was telling you at the beginning. But coming to this, I think it is a nice reflection and a nice discussion to think how much hydrogen will be needed in our decarbonized world. So first of all, I think it is important that we acknowledge where the hydrogen needs to be used. And as I was telling you in the first slides, hydrogen needs to be used for everything that it is very difficult to electrify. You probably all know the famous hydrogen letter from Michael Liebrecht, where tell us, the uses where it is much more favorable to use hydrogen, and other ones where we should electrify directly, because it's going to be much easier and much more economically advantageous to do it. However, there is debates and there is disputes about how much hydrogen it is going to be needed. There is like two main currents of opinions, but even in the ones that they are much more pessimistic, or let's say the ones who are saying that we will need it not so much hydrogen, we are having that this is the data that, for example, the Hydrogen Science Coalition, as with Michael Barnard, that you probably can read his posts quite often in LinkedIn and in social media. They are anticipating that we will be needed lots of hydrogen, so more than 100 million tons. Some people are defending that we will be 300, that maybe we need 400, 500. So in this sense, I think it is also important to come to the types of hydrogen, right? We know that there are plenty. Sometimes it's getting a bit confusing. So in the near future, now that we are only having fossil hydrogen mainly, so the ones that they are here in the bottom part of the slide. Okay, which hydrogens, which type of hydrogens we will have in the future? Well, in our opinion, well, in my opinion, and many of the people with me, the main type of hydrogens that we will be having in the future are these three, and most likely going with a large percentage on green hydrogen. Not little regarding blue, and probably not zero regarding gray hydrogen, because some of fossil fuels, I guess that we will continue be using, and in some cases, gray hydrogen will be still be produced. Also, I think it is important to mention here what we call pink hydrogen. That's the one that is done with water electrolysis plus nuclear energy. So instead of getting the electricity from renewables, it's getting the electricity from nuclear power. As you can imagine, the countries where this energy would be the predominant, the logical thing to think is that pink hydrogen would be the dominant type of hydrogen. But everything turns to green hydrogen because we all know that the renewable electricity is getting cheaper and cheaper. This is something that we are all quite happy with, because it put us in the right path to fight against climate change. So the more we will go in a future society, the more we will manage to go to this left side of the graph in order to have low levelized cost of hydrogen. And as you see, when we will be on this part of the graph, we will be already in parity with the hydrogen that we are using right now. That will be great news. So, saying all this, and as a bit of recap, taking into account what the hydrogen needs to be used, or for what the hydrogen needs to be used, the different tensions they're asking for too little hydrogen, too much hydrogen, and the types of hydrogen that we can have, some of them renewables, some of them less renewables. I think it is quite reasonable to think that around 200 million tons of hydrogen of the molecule itself will be needed in a future. Myself, I always said that all right, let's consider that at least half of that quantity will be green hydrogen. So that's a little bit why I'm kind of promoting and getting this number as hey guys, let's try to produce 100 million tons of green hydrogen as soon as possible. It is something that is not going to happen overnight, because right now we are not producing nearly nothing. So we need to come from 0 to 100 as fast as we can. And we are not talking about the 500 or 600 million tons that other people are claiming or other studies are defending. So myself trying to be on the pragmatic side of the story and say, okay, let's do this first and see where we get us when we will get there. But 100 million tons, it's a number and unit that probably for many of you doesn't say much. So let's try to come down to reality, this figure. So first of all, 100 million tons of green hydrogen represents a quite large market size, as you could see. It's just taking a value of 1.5 to dollars per kilo, and you see that this is a quite interesting, more than interesting, right? Market to pay attention, and that's the reason that we see so much attention and so much traction on the last years. When it comes to the electrolyzers, one can do simple math. Allow me a little bit. Maybe it's a bit too simple because it is taking into account maybe a too little capacity factor and a too little efficiency. But to you to have a good number that won't be far from the reality is that in order to produce 100 million tons of green hydrogen, we need to have 1 terawatt of electrolyzers. And 1 terawatt, it is 1,000 gigawatts of installed capacity of electrolyzers. This by itself is also another very interesting market sector. And one can measure also with a simple math that can vary depending which price of the electrolyzer you will take. Also giving us indication that this market sector is a very interesting one among all the renewable technologies that we have. And to you to realize what is the task that we have ahead, you need to know that last year we had installed about 5 gigawatts. So we need to go from 5 to 1,000, in my opinion, as soon as possible, because this will contribute to fight climate change, that it is what we are all here fighting for. But at the same time, this needs to be correlated with the renewable energy needed, right? We all know that to produce green hydrogen, we need renewable electricity. One may think that 1,000 gigawatts of electrolyzers, it's a lot of renewables that we are going to have very difficulties to have. Well, a simple math again is to just multiply by 2 or 3 this number to kind of get the surplus renewable energy that we will be needed to produce this hydrogen. And if we consider that this is electricity coming from solar energy, one can do a math of how extensive is 3 terawatts of solar panels. If we would do that exercise, that it's a bit silly and ridiculous, but just to make us a conception of what it means, 3 terawatts of renewable energy. So like a country like Croatia, if we fill it with solar panels, we will be able to get the energy. Just have a look to the world map, zoom out to see how big is Croatia respect to many places in the world where we have available land to get renewable electricity, and we could all agree that this is not a matter of not having enough renewable electricity. It's a matter of getting it done. So this is a little bit my take on how much hydrogen we will need to kind of go for. And from that hydrogen, how much needs to be green hydrogen. So I would be very happy if you keep in your heads that 100 million tons of green hydrogen is probably a very good amount to look for and achieve as soon as possible. So after this, I like to kind of come to the second part of my presentation, that is to telling you a little bit about the concrete case of steel. Steel is one of the more difficult sectors to electrify, and therefore it is where we are putting our hopes for hydrogen to contribute to decarbonize this sector. You probably all know that the steel is produced unevenly by different countries, and I put this picture to kind of make you aware of how steel could represent different um, importances for different countries. I live now in Sweden, so I just brought here how much percentage of the emission share the steel industry represents for Sweden, and that kind of explains you probably why Sweden is been always at the forefront of tackling the steel emissions, as the steel industry is very responsible of the emissions that we have in this country, and at the same time very responsible of our wealth in our economy. We would like that we tackle that as soon as we can. So that kind of also can you think of how China will look at this, most likely sooner than later, in my opinion? Or other countries, maybe I put my home country, Spain, may put other things first, or maybe give it less importance, because it is not such a um, big contribution for their economy. So it is a little bit to realize the the uneven of things, right? It won't be all happening at the same time, because not everyone has the same interest for their own local industries. It doesn't mean that we don't have to address them, but I think it is also quite nice to realize about the different tensions in the world to overcome them as best as we can. One of the things that this is also interesting to realize is how steel right now is produced. This is a picture of the different routes that you have to produce steel, from the mining to the final product. And in here, I think it is quite nice to see how each step has been responsible for the emissions. And you could see here in the cloud which ones, this is kind of the accumulated emissions of each part of the steel production. And you see how the blast furnace is one of the biggest contributions. And it is there where we are willing to get our hydrogen to work. And this brings me a little bit to also explain you how we produce green steel. And green steel is produced with the use of green hydrogen. So remember that in order to have green hydrogen, we need renewable electricity, and we use that green hydrogen as a reducing agent for our iron ore that we are going to put in a tower in in a reactor that we call a direct reduction unit. And from there, we will obtain what we call a decarbonized product, and that it is the one that we will use in some more traditional, well, not so traditional, because they are electrical arc furnaces, and they are ones that they've been rather modern. You know that the steel is being produced for more than a century, even nearly to 2 centuries. So the electrical furnaces for the steel guys, it's quite new. So the combination of these three things, the production of green hydrogen, the use of a DRI tower, and the direct reduction of iron, DRI, and the utilization of electrical furnaces, of course, fed with renewable electricity, will lead us to green steel. So this is why we are kind of focusing so much in hydrogen, and why we are now saying that we need to push hydrogen to or green hydrogen to be developed for steel to be decarbonized. And just to put you a bit of numbers of Sweden and their activities to realize how this is happening for Sweden. So there is these two main initiatives in the very north of Sweden, where they will produce 3.5 million tons with the utilization of 1.5 gigawatt electrolyzers. So this is a considerable amount of the current steel production of the country. As you see, right now, Sweden produces around 5 million tons. So it meaning that we will decarbonize more than 50% of the current production in few years, because these two projects, one would like to be online in the late 20s or early 30s at the latest. So this is a good example of the role of green hydrogen in order to decarbonize a very difficult industry to electrify. And I also put here on the last column how many electrolyzers it will be needed if we would decarbonize all the steel from with this route. That is not the only one. It is not in the scope of this on this presentation, but I encourage you to have a look to other routes of decarbonization of steel. But if you allow me to do the math and the exercise to kind of put us in the dimension that it means to decarbonize all the steel with green hydrogen, you see that we even overcome the number that I was telling you to produce. Even if we just stay with 50% of the steel, and we think that we produce enough electrolyzers for that steel, we will be needed 600 gigawatt electrolyzers. So it's a large task that we have ahead of us, but also very exciting and very interesting to help us into this difficult transition that we are going, but that we are sure that we will manage to go through. All right. So coming to this point, I would like to also make you to reflect about how to make this to happen. So how we produce green hydrogen? Well, first of all, I think it is important to realize what we have in a hydrogen plant, because we've been putting a lot of focus on electrolyzers, but the hydrogen plant, it's much more than electrolyzers. It is true that electrolyzer systems are rather complex piece of equipment. They are made of different parts, as the stacks, as the electronics, as the balance of the stacks, the balance of the units, in order to have the gas purified and separated, and so on and so forth. But many times you would need to either have a few electrolyzers together, or to end your hydrogen plant with extra equipment. So equipments related what we call the balance of plant. So compressors, nitrogen supplier, air supplier, hydrogen storage, and very dependent of your specific project. So many times you will realize when you are doing this sort of projects that you cannot only rely on the electrolysis and the electrolyzer manufacturer. You need to have a very good picture of what is happening and what we need in order to have the hydrogen that your offtake will demand. Sometimes you will need hydrogen at high pressure, or you will need hydrogen at normal pressure, and compressors won't be needed. And depending of this final need, you could use it also to produce ammonia. We could use it also to produce sustainable fuels. It's gonna have different requirements. That's where the balance of plant come into place. It's probably too little to kind of realize about the dimension of this, but it is things that you need to kind of take into account. I also put other boxes that needs to be thinking. And maybe in here we can also realize, because you can always have your electrolysis unit or your electrolyzer unit on the center of the hydrogen plant, but you need to make sure that you have the right water, that we need high quality water to do the electrolysis. So you need a water treatment plant. You need to have cooling for your equipment. You have a lot of equipment. You need to kind of make sure that you have that. You need to take care of your power connection. You have a lot of power to handle, and in there it is something that you need to take care. So something also that sometimes is disregarded is all the civil work that needs to be taken care of the hydrogen plants, buildings, infrastructures, access roads, all these things that needs to be put together in order to have a working hydrogen plant for the desired power to X project that you would like to develop. So with this, I would like to kind of give just few slides about water considerations. It is important to have a good assessment of your water when you do a hydrogen project. We know that there are places, and again, I put the case of Europe because it is the one that I know the best, where we have a scarcity of water. The brown areas are areas where we will have problems with water. We are already having problems with water, and it is anticipated, this is the map for 2030 to still having. So it is important that we realize that we have a lot of wastewater available for us. And I just put here the example of the wastewater that a city as Barcelona has available for us. We need to clean the water anyway. Even if we would use drinkable water, we would need purified water for operating our electrolyzers. And it is in that purification step where we will have our added cost. So it doesn't matter that we start from sea, wastewater, or drinkable water. But in order to avoid these issues, the water that we have available in terms of wastewater, it is tremendous. And this will include also all these circularity ideas and circularity concepts that we are all very happy to include in our project. So keep in mind when you will do a project and you will think that water is an issue, that most likely you will have wastewater nearby that you could utilize, or you could help to get it clean and then use it for yourself. So I think there are synergies here around water that we are not explaining enough for on the hydrogen part. Okay, and to finish my presentation, I like to kind of give you just a few highlights about the technologies themselves. As I told you, I'm a geek of this. I learn about technologies all my life, and this is actually what it what makes me happier on working, on projects around the technology, trying to kind of help the guys to distinguish about which one to choose and the different characteristics. So most of you have heard about the four technologies that we have. And these technologies could be classified in two types: low temperature and high temperature. I like this classification because I think it is much better than if we just stick to the one that I showed you before. That is the one that you will see commonly used, and the one that I'm using many times because we need to try to speak the same language. But there is right now these 5 types of technologies out there. When we talk about alkaline, we have 2 types, atmospheric and pressurized. They are close but different because one works at atmospheric pressure, the other one's at pressurized between 15 and 30 bars. And then we have the membrane technologies, the proton exchange membrane, the PEM technology, that is the more advanced of the membrane technologies working in an acidic media. And then we have the anion exchange membrane technology, that is the one working in a basic technology, in a basic media, and it's the less mature of the technology so far. And then in another classification, we will have the high temperature ones. So in this one, you'll have some characteristics of the technologies. I think the more relevant ones are the temperature. When we talk about low temperature, what we mean? Okay, we mean below evaporation of the water, so 60, 80 degrees, but also pushing it a little bit to get in our favor the thermodynamics. And when we talk about high temperature, we talk about the steam electrolysis. So we don't talk about water electrolysis anymore. One of the main differences among the technologies are the materials that they use. When alkaline use mainly lots of nickel and lots of carbon steel, PEM would need more expensive materials like titanium, platinum, and iridium. An ion exchange membrane, in the other hand, the other membrane technology can also profit of cheap materials as nickel and carbon steel. While solid oxide cells, solid oxide electrolysis, they are made of cheap and abundant materials. Then I should have put here that these ones are oxides. So it's the oxides of these guys plus stainless steel, making also them quite interesting from the point of view of the cost, because these are cheap and abundant. And I also put the stack size here to you to kind of understand a little bit the level of maturity of the different technologies. While in the PEM and alkaline ones, we have megawatt size stacks. In the other 2, we are more on the kilowatt with SOECs a little bit ahead than AEMs, but still below the other 2 brothers and sisters. And let me explain you a little bit why SOECs have such very good efficiencies. This is one of the main advantages of SOECs. You will hear that we will go, sometimes it's a bit counterintuitive that a high temperature technology working above 600 degrees C will have higher efficiencies. Well, it's all about thermodynamics and the voltage that the reaction operates. While at high temperature, we can get advantage of the little overpotentials of the steam electrolysis. At low temperatures, when we have liquid water, we need to overcome much more overpotentials, and we need to push the reaction and the voltage much higher, leading us to a loss of efficiency. So this is a little bit what I want to express with this figure. So let's see the low temperature as a lazy reaction that needs to be pushed somehow, either by giving it potential or by putting some expensive catalyst to work, while when you are in SOECs, you are trying to operate the electrolyzer at this potential, and at the same time you are getting heat from the outside. And that's also the reason why we are saying that SOECs are a very good match for all the industrial sites with excess heat, because you could feed the heat to the electrolyzer, while in the other technologies they would be putting heat away, and you would use that heat for something else. So just to put you the main drawbacks and advantages of the technologies. To me, all of them, are necessary. Some of them are best for another things. Some of the technologies are best for some applications than others. I will go to that in my next slide. But here you see advantages and disadvantages of the technologies that they are now helping us in the projects. I put IM here because it's not ready for go for a large industrial project. So alkaline has the advantage that has the lowest capex and the more maturity among all the technologies. However, it has a large footprint and high energy consumption. PEM, due to their membrane technology, have the capability to have high flexibility on the load that takes from the renewable electricity, meaning that we could ramp up, ramp down easily and without causing a lot of damage in the stack. And it's also very compact. However, here we are talking about expensive materials in order to make the reaction, and we will be leading with higher capex and as well with higher energy consumptions, because we will be dealing with low temperature electrolysis. SOECs, on the other hand, have this very nice advantage of the very high efficiencies, low energy consumption, but and at the same time they have the potential to be quite cheap because they are made from inexpensive materials. But right now we have to work to make it to last longer, to make the stacks much more durable, and to produce them in larger scales. So to finish, let me kind of tell you where I think we should try to kind of put our technologies to work, because depending of what project we will be having, um, its technology will work best. So when we will have large footprint available and low electricity price, our alkaline solution would be the preferential solution as right now. When we will be more in a small footprint, think of an offshore project, for instance, or hydrogen refilling station, or problems with a site that doesn't have much space for everything that you need to put there. PEM is a very good solution. If in addition you are with a variable renewable source, it will be a very good solution for you. On the other hand, SOECs could take advantage of their high efficiencies when coupled to process with high amounts of excess heat that will allow us to also use more expensive electricity, because it is also one thing that you could take advantage. Thanks to my high efficiency, I will manage to get a business case with a little bit higher electricity. However, we all know that the electricities are our main headache these days, and we need to get renewable electricities as cheap as possible to this to happen. So just very quick to leave a little bit of room for a few questions, just about my company, Renewable, an engineering consultancy company that is based in north of Europe, originally from Denmark, with around 18,000 employees these days, and with quite holistic approach, working in different parts of the value chain of building Power-to-X projects that come very handy when you need to either deal with the permission, deal to the building, to the construction of a building, to kind of get the train track for the infrastructure, or our department, in the energy department, where we are doing these Power-to-X projects. So just to tell you that we are with much more hydrogen projects these days. We are close to the 200. I forgot to update that number. But just that you want to learn more, please be in touch with me, and don't hesitate to send me an email. So as conclusions, please keep in mind that lots of emissions needs to be tackled, and hydrogen is a great tool for this. 100 million tons to me is a very nice target to reach. It means a lot of electrolyzers, so we need to get the job done. Please be aware that the hydrogen plant is quite complex, that water scarcity can be an issue, but at the same time, an opportunity. And don't forget that we can be your partner for your projects. And thanks again, QPQ International, for hosting me, allowing me to talk about my passion. And thanks all of you for your attention.
Thank you, Carlos. Great presentation. A lot of new things I learned about hydrogen. I'm not a technical guy, but this was very, easily delivered and absorbed. This information is great, and I think I'm sure that a lot of our attendees would agree with this, and I'm sure they found it valuable. And a good kind of indicator for this is a lot of questions. So good that we got a little bit of time. I don't think we'll be able to cover all the questions, but let's briefly cover as many as we can. So I'll read them out to you, and then you can briefly answer. And the ones that we're not able to cover in the next 6-7 minutes, we'll probably send them over by the email. Send the answers by email to everyone. Yeah, together with the recording.
No problem. Yes, I can do that.
Perfect. So JD Polk is asking, do you actually need 100 to 150 of generation, or do you need that much in storage so it can produce 24/7, 365 electrical needs for the synthesization?
Depending on your project, if you most likely with an industrial project, you will need a 24/7, and that's one of the main constraints that we are having now, that we don't have enough places in the world, or there is very little places in the world with this 24/7 renewable electricity supply. For now, north of Europe, here in Scandinavia, thanks to their fabulous hydropower in that area, are able to supply with a decent amount of electricity. But with time, most likely the grids will be able to cope with that, together with battery storage and a bit of oversizing also of our projects, to install also hydrogen storage in the projects, depending a lot from case to case. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So Garth Watson is asking, if hydrogen is produced in an emissions-free process from coal or waste, is it considered as green?
If it's
Because there are so many colors of hydrogen. There is
green,
blue,
I think
pink.
green won't be, because green, it is quite accepted that it is renewable electricity plus water electrolysis. But renewable hydrogen, I think it is still under discussion. And for instance, in Europe, we consider renewable hydrogen blue, pink, and green. So the one that comes from the natural gas plus capturing every CO2 that you do, and the one that we use nuclear energy to give electricity. Those are the three main
This is
renewable.
pink. The last one is pink, right?
Pink,
From nuclear.
exactly. And they are even yellow and white. Yeah,
Okay. Yes, I agree with you that it all depends on the country because there is no unified kind of legislation around
exactly.
it, and
And this
depends
is
how. Mhm.
And this is actually a very good topic and something that I would urge all my colleagues, working in this field, that we get things much more clear and much more simplified. Maybe we should get away from the color nomenclature and just talk in terms of emissions.
Mhm.
Uh, because it is what it matters at the end of the day. We want to kind of get limit in CO2 per kilo of hydrogen
Mhm.
produced, and that should be kind of the limit. It's kind of an standard measure in many
Mhm.
products. So maybe we should do the same in hydrogen.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll try to read out the name. Apologies if I didn't get it right, but I think it's Jacques Bourseau. Um, uh, from what I know from the previous message that he sent, him and his company invented a new technology. So he's asking why hydrogen technology. So he's asking why are we focusing on electrolyzers when new tech is out there?
Well, I'm focusing on electrolyzer because it is what I am an expert of. I know that there are other technologies, and I'm sure that other technologies will give solutions. I will encourage everyone that gets new solutions to disseminate and help us to get these things. I know that there is the pyrolysis also coming up, and other technologies around this. Yeah,
Because the argument is, I think, is around electrolyzers having low efficiency, similar to solar panels. Like I don't know exact the percentage, but that's the main concern.
Yes, I mean, I think my approach always to the technology is that every technology counts, and we shouldn't disregard any technology as soon as we all agree that they are useful.
Mhm.
For now, in order to produce renewable hydrogen, to produce green hydrogen, we are putting our efforts and focus on water electrolysis because we've been developing this technology for a long time now. It is not new. It is not something that we got from yesterday. So it is been there. I did my PhD started in 2005 in what we call one of the more immature technologies, solid oxide. So you can imagine that I'm not the first one
Mhm.
inventing that technology. So it's been 20 years, probably 40 since the first guys dealing with these things. So I really encourage everyone that have new tech to use these opportunities to disseminate about themselves, about their technologies,
Yeah.
and make them to push. I will be supporting that.
Yeah. The only challenge is that we are seeing from the governments and investors a bit of a pushback, or not pushback, but them being very slow in embracing new technologies.
Yeah,
Everyone wants to put their money and bet on proven commercialized technologies, but yeah, but I totally agree with what you're saying. We have to, if we want to really kind of support the transition, we have to embrace new technologies and evolve as much as possible. What I suggest, Carlos, because we still have a lot of people hanging here, so let's then dedicate, if you have time, another 5-10 minutes, so we
sure,
answer
sure.
all the
Yeah,
questions.
I
And
was
this
anticipating that. So
yeah, this way,
I'm
whoever, we will send the recording, and people who want to scroll and, to the end, for those who attended and but couldn't stay for the Q&A session, they will be able to at least listen to it later. Yeah, and this way you won't have to worry about, typing the answers
sure,
separate. Yeah.
no problem.
Nellis is asking, what do you think of gold hydrogen that they claim can be extracted in the US? I haven't heard of it. Have you?
Yes, apparently they are now discovering nature geolo like
Geological.
yes, that's it. Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah. Sources of hydrogen. There is a very nice article, I think, in Science explaining the science behind how this hydrogen has been formed due to some reactions going on in the crust, and I don't know, to be honest.
It really depends how much of it is there. You know, if it's as
They
much
say that
natural gas, then probably okay,
yeah,
right?
it is. They say that if it is like that, we may have a lot. Again, I think we need to extract it. We need to transport it. So maybe for specific cases with a deposit close by, an off-taker, it could work because I guess it will have an infrastructure around. It's not only, you need to extract it. It's not like you're gonna just,
Mhm,
dig a hole
yes,
and this is gonna come
exactly.
up. It's much more complex than that. I think our oil and gas friends probably know how difficult it is to have a rig.
Mhm,
So I think it is an interesting development to watch, and again to really um, frame it to the right application. I wouldn't think to bet all in
mhm,
gold hydrogen, even if we can prove that we have enough. It will take a lot of time to kind of go in and make a new way of distributing the hydrogen, and it's a bit. But maybe someone has an industry nearby
mhm.
and could utilize it instead of build other technology that.
Yes,
So.
yeah,
hmm?
I agree. It's very early because, some people say it's hydrogen. That might be, you have, there's not enough information available. And I think some people might say maybe it's natural gas. And then you have to have all this, monitoring and, agencies that will make sure that this concept is not, neglected or
I
misused.
mean, as a scientist, it's a great topic to dig into because it seems like very new and very attractive. But yeah,
Okay, Suresh is asking you to clarify 100 metric ton of H2 and 1,000 gigawatt electrolyzer. Is this 100 metric ton per hour
no, per year,
per
per
year?
year, per year,
Okay.
per
Mhm.
year.
Um, what are the factors? So this is from Digorio. What are the factors to be employed to determine hydrogen levelized cost, and at what price the green hydrogen is to be considered as economically viable? I think that's a very important
A
question.
very important question. Yes. At the very beginning, everything goes to the price of the electricity. So the first thing that you need to kind of tackle is your electricity price, renewable electricity price. Needs to be, in my opinion, below 50 euros megawatt hour to start to have a working business case. It will depend on your business case which levelized cost of hydrogen would be competitive. They are because you are competing with the fossil alternative, so it's not the same to produce hydrogen for the decarbonized steel as you are competing mainly against coal, that ammonia, that you are competing against natural gas, that sustainable aviation fuel, that you are competing against kerosene. So this number is a little bit a quite big span and can vary between 2 and 5 euros per kilo even. So there are business case quite rare and very little that could work even at that high levelized cost of hydrogen. But the main thing that you need to make sure to start your hydrogen project is to have cheap renewable electricity. And by cheap, I mean below 50 euros megawatt hour, and even, yeah, the
Mhm.
lower you can, the best. And 24/7, of course. So that's the main challenge.
But
That
per kilo of H2, what do you think would be the price, to a viable price?
I think if we will be producing at 3,
Mhm.
At $3, €3 per kilo, we will have quite interesting business cases happening.
What is the average price now? Because I know it varies between, California, they sell some crazy prices with
I
Europe.
think if you are in if your planets got aligned, you could be there, and you could go up to 8, 10.
Mhm.
But you got the electricity conditions that they
Yeah.
have in north of Sweden, with
Mhm.
a, in theory, a spot price of 30, 40 euros megawatt hour. And if you get a good business case where someone buys your hydrogen a little bit expensive, it can work. And it's there what actually we should focus right now, those business cases.
I agree. Well, a question from our good friend of ours and your countryman, Pedro Banda. Hola, Carlos. What would be a realistic timing for price parity of green and gray hydrogen? Do you believe that price is slowing down development of H2 projects, or it may be the lack of regulation that drives the business?
That's many questions in all. I believe the prices will go down because I am, and it's not me. It's not like it's not. We don't have to kind of. It is clear that renewable electricity price is going down. The only thing or the main problem that we are having is that it's not even in the world, and it's not the same for south of Spain, Middle East, places in China, and the US. We won't have the same development of the electricity price. So this is the trend that we need to actually look at when we need to develop green hydrogen projects, those places where we have less electricity price. And of course, regulation will play a very important role because there will be cases with a little bit in the middle where maybe, we can get 50% renewables, but we don't know if we could get the grid to complement that could help us to get viable projects to work, get going, and get the ball rolling. That it is more what we need as one of the first things. We need also the ball to start rolling and to play the game to this to happen. So everything is related, but I'm positive. I believe that we are going into the right direction. We are learning much more on how to reduce cost on building hydrogen plants. Yes, sure, now it will be expensive, but in few years we will be getting there much faster than we are doing now.
Mhm. Great. Another question from JD Polk. Has Sweden given any thought to the new and improved steel basalt we now manufactured here in Florida?
Not aware of what he's talking about, so I don't think so. So
Mhm.
very looking forward to hear more if he can
Okay.
write me. Yeah,
All right, we have a lot of questions. I don't know, we'll be going for a while, so let's answer a couple more, and then the rest we'll take care of them separately. What do you think?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. We can stay until 15 if you want. 15 minutes
Yeah.
is good.
Okay. 6 more minutes. Sure. Okay. We
Yeah.
still have, we still have a lot of people here. So, how mature is SOEC electrolyzers for usage at industrial scale?
I'm very happy that you asked me that question because I love SOECs. Well, SOECs are in a much more advanced situation than many people think, but still far to cope with many hundreds megawatt projects. Right now, there are just a couple of industries saying, let's say, with a lot of braveness, that they are ready. But I'm sure that in the very near future, they will be there to cope with the projects. There is a very interesting report that I can also people can find in my LinkedIn posts where they summarize the state of the art. I can also send it around, Vlad, if
Mhm.
we find that interesting.
True. Very good question, in my opinion, about governments' resistance. So, do you see global challenges with governments embracing these transitions? Some countries over another. In America, we struggle with resistance. I'm wondering how Sweden embraced it so easily.
Well, actually, Sweden has been traditionally a lazy country when it comes to hydrogen. And it comes because we've been very advanced in electrification. So it comes also from this stupid dispute between electrification and hydrogen, that's batteries and fuel cells. You probably have heard many times that we've been fighting when we've been always defending that one thing complement the other and vice versa. So yes, I'm afraid that we will still be facing these resistances, and I hope that with all this dissemination that we are all doing, we will break these things and show the way to go forward.
Perfect. Well, I think we're gonna let's wrap up here. 'Cause, it's already, normally we stop at 1 hour, but I'm glad that we have dedicated quite a bit of time to Q&A.
Yeah,
A lot
it's
of
very nice
questions.
always getting the
Yes, and
questions.
I really appreciate your enthusiasm and knowledge on this topic. Once again, really happy that you've been able to join and share some wisdom with our audience. I have definitely learned a lot. Thank you, Carlos. You have a great rest of the day then. And thank you to
Thank you
everyone.
very much, Vlad. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take
Thank you,
care.
guys. And for those who are still there, I shared the presentation handovers, the slides in the chat. You can download, and also the link where you can submit your projects for review by QPQ. Thanks again. Take care.
Bye.